Hey, Michael Church, Crawl Space Ninja. Today we're going to go over our essential guide to wood rot fungus. Now, we came up with this guide because many times a lot of homeowners, by the time they think to call a crawl space encapsulation professional like us, or a waterproofing professional, or a mold remediator, they've already got a pretty serious problem going on. And the crawl space, remember, is part of the home, just like the basement is part of the home. So what I'm going to discuss with you is some of the warning signs about wood rot fungus, some ways that you can treat it, prevent it, and that sort of thing. I'm going to go over our table of contents here in just a moment. But this is a very important way and a very important information for you as a homeowner to hopefully identify the problem before it gets out of control. If it is a big issue, then I'm also going to share with you some ways that you can address the wood rot fungus. Stay tuned. If you're new to Crawl Space Ninja, we talk about everything related to mold remediation, crawl space encapsulation, basement waterproofing, and even attic insulation. So we hope you'll subscribe to our channel, ring that notifications bell, follow us on Facebook, and we hope you like this content. Like the video down below. If you have some comments or questions or even some pictures that you want to upload, we've got an Ask a Ninja link down below that you can do that as well, or you can comment on this video. Okay, so let's get into this. This guide was designed to determine if your home is at risk for heavy molds which lead to wood rot fungus, and also what to do to both treat and prevent future damage. So as I said before, many of the homeowners that we help, they've already had a flooding issue in their crawl space. They have high humidity, and all these things lead to molds and wood rot funguses and things like that. So we're mainly going to be focusing on areas like the crawl space and the basement. But wood rot fungus can happen anywhere. It can be around your front door. If you got a leaking door jamb, or the windows aren't caulked well, you can get wood rot fungus. A lot of your window and door guys and companies are replacing those due to the wood framing being destroyed. Your roof decking, if you have a water leak in your roof, wood rot fungus is normally what destroys that roof decking. If you've got a water heater up in the attic or in a part of the house that can leak onto wood, washers, refrigerators, all these issues, wood rot fungus can rear its ugly head. Toilets, we see a lot of toilets that the wax rings have gone bad, and you can develop mold and wood rot fungus. So let's go over the table of contents. First of all, we're going to talk about what is wood rot. There are basically three major types. There's brown rot, white wood rot, soft rot, and dry rot. So you've probably heard of dry rot. Is wood rot a health concern? We're going to cover that. Does it affect your indoor air quality? What is the difference between wood rot fungus and mold? What are mycotoxins? If you've heard of Stachybotrys or black mold, they always talk about mycotoxin. What causes wood rot fungus? How does wood rot affect my home? Does it lead to damage to joists and subfloor? Finding wood rot fungus in your house if you suspect there may be. How to stop and prevent it, as well as some tips on choosing the right contractor to address it if needed. So let's get into what is wood rot fungus. Wood rot fungi, or xylophagus, that's a big word, fungus is simply a mold or fungi that feeds on wood in the environment. So that's basically it. If you've ever been camping or hiking or things like that, you've seen a dead tree laying down, you see this stuff growing on the tree. The whole point of that xylophagus fungi is to return that tree back to the earth, back to the soil, so that it can become fertilizer for new trees and new plants and things like that. So what's interesting about wood rot is that it exists in the wild, but it also can exist in your home. The other interesting thing about it is it's not necessarily classified as a plant or an animal. It's kind of both. We would think of it more as a plant, especially when you go to the vegetable aisle of your favorite grocery store and you're getting your mushrooms to put on your salad or on your steaks or whatever. You're in the plant section, right? That's where the lettuce and tomatoes and all that sort of stuff is. But it has the motivation of an animal. So it's trying to overcome other organisms and to feed on them and break them down and do that sort of stuff. So I'm not sure that the scientists have classified it one or the other. I believe it's in its own classification. I used to think it was a plant, but its survival instincts, it has the survival instincts of an animal. Just like termites destroy your home structure from inside out, wood rot fungus operates similarly to strip the meaty parts of your wood that's in your home and leave nothing but a shell behind that needs to be replaced because there's no restoring it. So in other words, if wood rot gets in there, it's as destructive, if not more destructive, as termites, okay? And a lot of termite companies will treat wood rot fungus, but there's some things that they should do that they normally don't do, like dry out the wood and things like that. So if you have a really bad situation, and I'm going to put a link, there was a video that we did with a house that was less than 10 years old. This wood rot was all caused by high humidity. Wasn't a plumbing leak or anything like that. It was a beautiful house on the lake. They just had major humidity problems. And we had to go in there and dress that wood rot fungus and then re-sister joists and build some foundation and put up post jacks and different things like that. So if you get to the point to where it's out of control, it can really be damaging to your home, which is why we came up with this video to warn you to get down there in the crawl space or the basement and check things out, make sure you're not high humidity and that sort of thing. So let's cover the different types of wood rot that we deal with. There's many different types, but normally you've got brown wood rot fungus, which is very destructive to your subfloor joists, roof rafters, and more. It feeds on the cellulose part of your home's wood structure. The eating away of the cellulose in the wood can weaken the wood and create major structural issues leading to sagging floors, bouncing floors, and sagging shingles on the roof decking. Large areas of cellulose can be damaged even outside where the brown wood rot is visibly located. So let's say you got 10 square feet that you visibly see the wood rot. You could have damage spread further than that visible area that you can see. Because of this, the entire area of the crawl space should be treated, or the basement, or the wood structure of the roof should be treated to ensure all wood rot is addressed. Brown wood rot likes temperatures between 60 and 90 degrees Fahrenheit and spreads very quickly. Then you got white wood rot fungus. White wood rot fungus, and many times is obviously white, okay, or even yellow in color, and sometimes appears wet on the surface of the wood. This is very interesting. When we've gone into crawl spaces and done inspections, this white wood, it's real thick too. We've even seen it almost look like shaving cream, and it appears to be wet. It actually looks like it's oozing moisture out of it. It's kind of gross looking, but that stuff is you almost have to scrape it off. It's really difficult, which is why we soda blast it off. But we have found wood rot molds that can appear to be like shaving cream consistency, and once removed, leave holes similar to beetles boring in the wood. Brown wood rot attacks hemicellulose and cellulose, but white wood rot attacks the wood's lignin. White wood rot also likes similar temperatures as brown wood rot and is very destructive. As you can see, this is an example of white wood rot. Oftentimes, joists break from the weight of the living space contents in the affected area. So you got one destroying the cellulose and you got one destroying the lignin. In Michael Church Crawl Space Ninja explanation of lignin is it's a complex organic polymer that supports the wood. So it's kind of like the bones, and then the cellulose is kind of like the meat, is the best way I can figure out how this definition reads. But it says lignin is a class of complex organic polymers that form key structural materials in the support tissue of plants. So it's supporting. So this is interesting, but lignin is the number 2 most found material, and cellulose is the number 1. It is second to cellulose as the most abundant organic material on Earth. So anyway, there you go. That's lignin and cellulose. So cellulose is kind of like the meat of the wood, and lignin is kind of like the bones, is the best way I know how to describe it. Then you got soft wood rot. Soft wood rot breaks down wood more slowly, but are not commonly found in homes. So, you do find it in homes, especially heavily long-term moisture problems. It thrives in temperatures more extreme than brown rot and white rot and can live in temperatures from 0 degrees to 110 degrees Fahrenheit. Soft rot attacks cellulose as well and oftentimes shows a honeycomb pattern in the wood. Soft rot secretes an enzyme that breaks down the cellulose and looks similar to brown rot. So, it's interesting that when I was going through mold remediation classes and all this other stuff, people say, oh, mold can't live in temperatures below 30 degrees and all that. Well, this right there shows you it can. It can live in temperatures down to 0 degrees. You can't make mold go dormant by dropping the temperature or drying the wood. You actually have to physically remove it and disinfect it. That's what you're trying to accomplish. And then dry rot basically is another name for wood rot. So if you hear somebody talk about dry rot, my mold's dry rotted or whatever, it's just renaming brown wood rot fungus. And another significant difference between white wood rot and dry rot or brown rot is the brown rot typically is dry. So it's almost like a powder versus the white wood rot, which secretes a moisture out of it. And plus the white rot is white or yellow and the brown is brown. So those are some ways that you can identify these issues. Now, keep in mind, if you go down in your crawl space, if it's everywhere and it's just getting started, I want to give you a tip on how to look for mold in your crawl space. All right, take a really good flashlight and shine the light down the wood. Don't shine it directly at the wood, just shine it down the wood and you can see the bumps and the things getting started on the wood. Because a lot of times if you're looking straight at it, you can't identify it because it's the same consistency, but when you look down the wood, it really makes it stand out. So that's a tip for you all out there. If you're trying to see if you've got a problem, that's one way to look. And also get you a moisture meter and put it on the wood. If it's above 15 or 20%, and I know that's a pretty big range, but basically the way the smart people say is anything above 15% can grow mold, anything above 20% can grow wood rot, okay? So if you're above 15, you got a potential mold issue going on, but if you're above 20, you got some serious structural problems in your future if it stays above 20. And a lot of times by the time we get called out, our meter only goes to 53 that we use, and it's like pegging the meter. So it could be 60, 70, 80% moist. And as you can imagine, it could take a long time to dry that stuff out before you can address the mold. So is wood decay fungus dangerous? No. The way I've heard these microbiologists describe wood decay fungus versus mold is that a wood decay fungus eats the wood and it doesn't create any kind of, now it could be an allergen if you're down there, especially if it's that dry stuff, the brown rot that we're talking about. I'm not saying that it can't make you sneeze or that sort of thing, anything airborne. I mean, if you get flour in the air that you bake with, it can make you sneeze, right? So that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like affect you the same way that a Stachybotrys or a black mold would affect you. So they classify wood rot fungus as not necessarily being dangerous to you, but it's dangerous to your house because it will destroy your foundation, your subfloor, things like that. So what's the difference between mold versus wood rot decay fungus? Well, that's the difference. You got one that is basically a surface type of fungi, which would be mold, Stachybotrys, cladosporiums, things like that, that can be dangerous depending on your immune compromise or at least an allergen or thing where it's actually trying to spread through the air and go find new places to grow, versus wood rot fungus that is more like a termite destructive fungi, okay? So that's kind of the difference between the two. So that being said, what makes mold dangerous, other than the allergen portion, obviously the mold can just fly off the wood, especially if you disturb it. But a lot of people don't realize that mold actually creates what's called a mycotoxin, and it's actually Latin for mold toxin. The way I like to describe it is that if you have a 50-gallon drum of diesel fuel in a warehouse and you take the lid off of the diesel fuel, the fumes from that diesel fuel can affect you, right? You can smell it. It just affects you. It can even, it's combustible and all that. Well, not that a mycotoxin is combustible, but that's basically like your Stachybotrys, your cladosporium, your aspergilluses. Those types of molds release very destructive mycotoxins, okay? And what they are doing is they're trying to destroy the other molds around them, similar to how a coral reef spreads. So you got certain corals that are battling other corals and the strongest one wins. Well, Stachy is the strongest, Stachybotrys. All right, and if we've got any microbiologists out there and you want to comment on this, please do. We've tried to ask for some people to get on here. I can't get them on here. So I'm trying to explain this the best way I know. So that's kind of like the difference between how a mold reacts. It releases mycotoxins, which is damaging to us, versus a wood rot fungus, which is mainly focusing on spreading through the wood and just eating away at the cellulose or the lignin of the wood, okay? So what causes wood rot fungus? I mentioned this before, leaks. If you got a plumbing leak, if your crawl space is flooding, creating humidity problems, if you live in the South and you just have humidity problems anyway, that wood absorbs that moisture. The fiberglass, the subfloor insulation absorbs that moisture, holds it up against the wood, causes the wood moisture level to go through the roof. Remember, above 20% is what they classify as growing the wood rot fungus. And molds can grow no matter what. If 15% or higher, and then wood rot funguses grow, or fungi grows 20% or higher. So you want to keep that humidity in check. You want to possibly think about encapsulating and waterproofing your crawl space, or waterproofing your basement, installing a dehumidifier like the Aprilaire E-Series dehumidifiers. If you go to our YouTube channel and just type in Aprilaire, you'll find all kinds of information about E-Series dehumidifiers that are great. So that's basically what's causing the problem, is moisture, okay? That's the biggest thing that you need to control. Remember, moisture not only affects the wood and makes it grow mold, but it also affects viruses and germs and bacteria. There's a good humidity level that you want to keep your house at, which is between 45 and 55% relative humidity in most cases. Wood rot fungus affects your home, as I mentioned before, by damaging these structures, okay? Your sill plate, even though it's pressure treated, can become prey to wood rot fungus eventually. But molds tend to grow on sill plates more than the wood rot fungus, all right? So there are some pressure treated woods that are designed for ground contact, and then there's some that are not, but they're still pressure treated. So if you're building your home or something, I would use the pressure treated that's designed for ground contact, because it's got more resistance to termites and wood rot funguses and things like that. The other thing is that if you've got subfloor insulation and moisture gets above the insulation and between it and the subfloor, whether that's because of a plumbing leak or humidity has gotten up in there, that's just an environment that is ready for wood rot fungus. So this is the main reason why I don't like subfloor insulation. I'm not against air sealing major penetrations in the subfloor, but if you spray foam the subfloor, the entire subfloor, or you put fiberglass insulation up there and you have a leak from above, you don't even really know that it's leaking, and it can really mess up your subfloor. So that's why we insulate the foundation walls when we do an encapsulation. In most cases, your entire home rests on a few support beams. Just keep that in mind. So if these wood rot fungi start damaging the floor joists and the subfloor, it affects not only your living space, but all the way up to the roof. Remember, you have to have a good foundation. I don't know why builders put more, well, I do know why. Builders put more emphasis on kitchens and baths than they do on the foundation or the protection of the foundation of homes, okay? And that's why we exist, is to try to educate you on making sure that you take care of that foundation through encapsulation, waterproofing, humidity control, interior waterproofing, whatever it takes. You need to make sure you invest money in a good company and good products to keep these areas dry all the time. Dehumidifiers, active ventilation systems to remove soil gases. So basically the floor joists and the subfloor tend to be a little easier to get to and repair if needed. But that sill plate, man, if that sill plate gets destroyed or the rim joist gets destroyed by wood rot fungus, you've got to jack the house up to replace the sill plate. And you normally have to repair and replace the rim joist from the outside. So imagine having a brick house. We've actually had brick homes that the brick had to be cut out in order to take that bad band board or that bad rim joist out and replace it with a good one. You want to talk about expense. So encapsulating a crawl space is nothing when you compare to that kind of labor that has to be put into it, and the material costs and all that. And then, you know, if you have to put the brick back, the mortar joint's going to look weird because it's not seasoned like the rest of the mortar joints were. So, and we've actually done that. Not that we do that much anymore. We've kind of gotten out of that. We've let the masons handle that sort of thing. We just focus on the encapsulation and the waterproofing at this point. So as I mentioned before, when you're inspecting your home, whether it's your basement, your attic, or whatever, a good tip is to shine the flashlight sideways to get you some good moisture meters, a humidity reader, and also a wood moisture meter to check the wood. So when I say things like, you want the relative humidity between 45 and 55%. That would be a humidity reader that would check the air for high humidity. Temperature also affects the amount of moisture in the air, but in most cases, if you encapsulate your crawl space, you're going to be between 60 and 75 degrees. If you start to get up into 80 and 90 degrees, it really makes more moisture inside the air when you have high humidity. But you also need that moisture meter that you physically put on the wood or on the masonry or whatever to see what the wood moisture level, and you want that under 15%. We prefer between 9 and 12%. If you have a humidity controlled environment, you're running your Aprilaire E-Series dehumidifier in there, then you should see wood moisture levels between 9 and 12%, which are good and help prevent molds and wood rot fungus from getting hold of the house. If you're unsure and you're in our service area, you know, we cover Delaware, Georgia, Kentucky, Tennessee, parts of Alabama, parts of South Carolina, North Carolina. So if you're in those areas, and we're always looking to grow and expand, so if you're interested in maybe becoming a Crawl Space Ninja owner and have some interest in that, go to franchise.crawlspaceninja.com and we'd love to talk to you about that. Anyway, there's a whole lot of areas out there, so if you're in our service area, we'd love to help you out and give you a free inspection and check your wood moisture levels and humidity, let you know if your crawl space is at risk for wood rot fungus. All right, so fixing and preventing wood decay fungus. As I mentioned over and over, you got to get the humidity under control. You've got to get the wood dried out. That's how you prevent it if you don't already have it. So if you just build a house and it's got vented crawl space, all right, you need to seal those vents up, control humidity. Don't let Mother Nature determine what the humidity inside your house is going to be with open vents. Now, if you live in Colorado or something where it's dry, that's different. But here in the South and then up in New England and parts of the Midwest, high humidity is a major problem for crawl spaces and basements, okay? Anytime you're below dirt, also like a basement, if you got a full basement where you're below dirt, they tend to be higher humidity as well. We've assisted builders and contractors that couldn't figure out how to control humidity, and you can put a whole home heat dehumidifier down there to help control that humidity if needed. But if you're the unfortunate homeowner that already has a wood rot or a wood decay problem, you've got to repair it. And that comes again with drying out the wood first, addressing the mold. We use soda blasting to physically remove the wood rot. Then we apply a disinfectant to get into the wood and destroy the root system. And then we apply a protectant. So that's typically how we would address it. And again, watch that video I mentioned earlier. In this video, it shows you some before and afters of what we had to do to address that. So many crawl space contractors, they just go in there and they'll wipe off the wood, or they'll just spray it and say, oh, it's okay to leave that old stuff behind. But that can become a food source for new molds. And how do you know they actually killed it if they didn't physically remove it, right? So you want to make sure you physically remove it. That's part of mold removal protocol. Mold remediation protocols to physically remove the mold. Don't let some cheap contractor talk you into bad repairs. It doesn't really fix anything. Choosing your crawl space contractor. There's a few things I want to go over. Make sure they're licensed, insured, they have a great reputation, check their reviews, they offer warranties, they offer satisfaction guarantees. The agreements are easy to understand. There's no hidden fees or bait and switch going on. A lot of times if you got, you know, 3 estimates for $15,000 and one guy comes in at $1,500, that might be a red flag. The employees are covered by work comp. Oh man, that's a huge one. So if that employee, or they go to Home Depot or Lowe's and they throw them a t-shirt and grab some day laborers and come to your house, those they're not covered by work comp. So make sure you protect your home and your investment, and also make sure they're trained and certified installers like the Crawl Space Ninjas are. So we really appreciate you watching this video. Michael Church, Crawl Space Ninja. We hope you'll like this video down below. Comment if you have any questions or want to help all of our viewers out there. Got any microbiologists out there that want to be on our channel? We'd love to talk to you about this topic. Michael Church, hope you make it a happy and blessed day. We'll see you later.